All right. Let's just make sure everything is loaded up. We're a few minutes early. That's because we have a lot to frickin' talk about today. There's a lot going on. So I want to get right to it. We are a few minutes early. It's not quite 2:11 yet. 2/11. Rockfin is awake. YouTube, where you at? YouTube, where? Oh, Rockfin wins. I like it when that happens because I really don't like YouTube. I like everyone who watches on YouTube. I don't like YouTube. You guys know this. Anyway, what's up, everybody? Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to everyone in the future. Australia, New Zealand. How's everything going? Did you figure out climate change? Text the solution to the rest of us so we can get on it. I'd appreciate that. Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron. I don't know why I'm using my arms a bunch right now. I don't know why I'm like I sometimes I play with my hands and I fidget, and fidgeting is kind of like, don't do that. But what's up? Welcome to the headline show. For those that are watching the live stream, we're a few minutes early because there is a lot of stuff I want to talk about today. What a week to come back. Wow. There has been a lot going on. Yeah, we're going to get to some of it. We are going to get to some of it. I'm going to start today with some actual good news. Here's the thing. There is a little bit of good news. You might not believe me. You might be, Ron, I don't think so. But there is a little bit of good news, and I'm going to start with it because we have a lot. We're going to do a reflection on Nina Turner's loss. We're going to talk about Roe v. Wade and what you can do, basically. We're going to talk about Starbucks union busting efforts. We're going to look into Christian Smalls a little bit because he's at the Senate Budget Committee meeting right now, and he crushed it, apparently. That's breaking. That's happening right now as of the recording of this, but I kind of want to look into some of it. So I have a video queued up. I've not watched it yet, but we're going to go through it together. So we got a lot to talk about. So usually I do good news last, but I kind of want to talk about some thematic stuff last. So we're going to do good news first. So here is a little bit of likely much needed good news. And this is in the net neutrality world. Breaking: broadband providers suing California's historic net neutrality law withdraw their lawsuit after 3 consecutive federal court losses. That means ISPs are giving up fighting the law in court. That's a big deal. All right. So for anyone who needs a quick refresher on what happened here, net neutrality, we lost it federally under the Trump FCC in 2017 and Ajit Pai. Now, since then, the courts have ruled that states can make their own net neutrality laws, and some states have passed some really solid net neutrality laws. California being one of those states. We have a badass net neutrality bill that was signed into law, which was a victory. That was a good thing. It's even better than the federal net neutrality protections. That's awesome. And other states are following California's lead, and that's fantastic. The ISPs, internet service providers, big cable, they took this to court and they said, you can't do this. And the court said, yeah, actually, they can. Sorry, you guys are making a ton of money, but you can't really do anything about this. They get net neutrality. Sorry, Charlie. And the ISPs tried again, and they said, are you sure, courts? And the court said, yes, we're sure. And then they tried a third time, and they were like, are you really sure? And the court said, yes, we're totally sure. So they gave up. That's a huge victory for the free and open internet. We're still fighting this one. The fight for a free and open internet continues. Digital rights is a huge issue. We covered a lot on this show, and there's still a lot of work to be done. But we got a victory, and that's not just a victory for California. That's a victory for the rest of the country because it shows you that states can enact their own strong net neutrality protections. All right, little bit of good news. We freaking needed it. Did we not? Of course we did. All right, let's go to Christian Smalls first, and then I have some other stuff I want to talk about with Starbucks. But we'll go to Christian Smalls first because so this is pretty breaking. I have not watched this yet. It's happening pretty much now, or a little bit ago at this point. But it's still breaking, and I just want to watch it. Apparently, he really crushed it. So I want to watch. I want to watch this video. So let's check it out together, shall we? All right. So this is Christian Smalls, and he addressed Lindsey Graham directly, and apparently he crushed it. All right, here we go.
Thank you for having me. Well, first of all, I want to address Mr. Graham. First off, it sounded like you was talking about more of the companies and the businesses in your speech, but you forgot that the people are the ones who make these companies operate. And if we're not protected, and if the process for when we hold these companies accountable is not working for us, then that's the reason why we're here today. That's the reason why I'm here to represent the workers who make these companies go. And I think that it's in your best interest to realize that it's not a left or a right thing. It's not a Democrat or a Republican thing. It's a workers thing. It's a workers issue. And we're the ones that are suffering in the corporations that you're talking about, in the businesses that you're talking about, in the warehouses that you're talking about. So that's the reason why I think I was invited today to speak on that behalf. And you should listen, because we do represent your constituents as well. So just take that into consideration, that the people are the ones that make these corporations go. It's not the other way around. So as the current interim president of the Amazon Labor Union, who represent 8,300 workers in Staten Island, an independent worker-led union that won their election on April 1st. I'm going to tell you this. We organized for over a year. And throughout the course of that year, Amazon spent millions of dollars, as you mentioned, Senator Sanders. Myself, including a few other organizers, was arrested outside for organizing, arrested for delivering food to their coworkers. I wanted to reiterate that as well. You know, the type of things that Amazon do, breaking the law, intimidation, these are real things that traumatize workers in this country. You know, thousands of workers across this country who are in the process of organizing, who have the desire to organize in the United States. We want to feel that we have protections. We want to feel that the government is allowing us to use our constitutional rights to organize. The notion that people in the united in this democracy will outmatch tyranny is the oldest American ideal. There's clearly defined legal process to do this, and workers like us have the rights protected by the First Amendment and the National Labor Relations Act. However, despite all of this, our victory in Staten Island was lauded as newsworthy and inspirational for the thousands of workers across the country, hundreds of thousands of workers. And even though we may have won, we did everything right, pressuring Amazon to recognize our victory and comply with our legal obligation to meet us at the bargaining table. But Amazon is refusing to do so. As you mentioned, they're going to stall. They filed 25 objections, and they got the NLRB to move the hearing to a whole nother location. To me, it just sounds like the corporations have the control, and they control whatever they want. They break the law, they get away with it. They know that already, that breaking the law during these election campaigns won't be resolved during the election campaigns. So they purposely continue to break the law. For example, we filed over 40 ULPs in 11 months. Most of them, or quite a few of them, got merit for further action. Some of them even got injunctions. For example, Gerald Bryson was fired 2 years ago. Finally, 2 years later, over 2 years later, there's a 10J in motion for his reinstatement. Another prime example, Daquan Smith was fired by the company for organizing. He's still out of a job. He's living in a shelter right now. We raise money through GoFundMe. These are just a few examples, including myself, who's been out of a job for the last 2 years. I want to just end off by saying this. We need to pass the PRO Act so that workers are protected and workers are encouraged to organize. And if that don't work, I'm going to let you know right now that on behalf of the Amazon Labor Union and the hundreds of thousands of workers across this country, that we will continue to organize. And once again, I want to remind you that this is not a left or right thing. This is the working class issue. And the workers at the bottom are the ones who make these corporations go. Thank you.
That was some powerful stuff. That was some powerful freaking stuff right there. That's what that was. So that's my first time watching that. And if it's your first time too, we watched it together. And I just thought that was very important to share. I hadn't seen it in its entirety, but I wanted to hear what he had to say. And that was powerful stuff. Hey, the corporations are doing what they want because they know they can get away with it, and we can't take it anymore, and we're organizing. And I'll say this about Christian Smalls. He has become, a face in this movement, a face in the labor movement. He's not alone, and he'll be the first one to point that out. He's a very humble guy. There's other people alongside him who have helped him organize these past years, and I don't want to diminish anyone else, but he is front and center. And I point that out because one thing that I want everyone to notice about him, he didn't really sign up for this. Christian Smalls was a worker at the Amazon warehouse at Staten Island, and he saw his workers being mistreated. They weren't being taken care of during a pandemic. They weren't provided with the proper equipment that they needed to do their job as safely as possible. Workers were getting sick. Nothing was being done about it. They were trying to force them to work anyway during a pandemic. And he spoke out about it, and they fired him. So he started organizing. And I don't think Christian Smalls necessarily wants to be the face of a movement right now, but he is. And heroes don't declare themselves. They're recruited most of the time. So shout out to him and shout out to everyone else. Again, he's not alone. There's a lot of people beside him, and he's the first one to point that out. And kudos to him for doing that. And kudos to him for everything he does. And kudos to all the workers at Amazon and Starbucks and all the people organizing. And I just thought it was real important to share that speech with y'all. And I don't have a ton of remarks prepared on it because, again, I just kind of saw it this morning, didn't get to watch it all the way, but thought it was too important not to share today because I really think we just watched some history right there. That's what we watched. We watched some history. Now, this will be fun. We're going to compare what we just watched, the words from Chris Smalls, to words from somebody else who is quite different in every way, Mr. Howard Schultz. Wow, Rod, really? You're making us going from, that's like here's a filet mignon and here is a shit sandwich. We're going to eat a shit sandwich next. Did you enjoy that first course, that filet mignon prepared by some of the finest chefs in the entire world? Well, here is a shit sandwich with burnt coffee beans. But here's what's going on. Howard Schultz is very scared right now because the Starbucks union elections, they are really racking up some wins. The first store in North Carolina voted to unionize recently. It was Boone, North Carolina, cool college town. Shout out to App State. And I believe, I want to say the first in South Carolina did too, but it is spreading. Don't quote me on South Carolina. I don't remember exactly, but it's spreading throughout the South. It's spreading throughout the Northeast. It is happening. And Howard Schultz is scared. Here's how scared he is. You ready for this video? This is a good one. Compare this to the other video we just watched, by the way.
So when you love something so much, you almost want to do anything to defend it, to preserve it, to enhance it, like you would for your family. And for so many people at Starbucks, this has become their family.
What a joke. What a joke.
And how personal it is. And it is very personal.
What's with all these awkward pauses, by the way? Was that like at one point I kind of thought the video froze. Why does he have this? He's not saying anything insightful. I mean, first of all, your workplace is not your family. Unless, of course, you have a small business that you literally run with your family. But let me repeat it. Your workplace is not your freaking family. And anyone who tries to tell you otherwise, they're not being a boss. They're trying to be a cult leader. And that's what this guy's doing right now. Trying to be a cult leader.
especially when you have an adversary that's threatening the very essence of what you believe to be true. And so I want to ask you to understand what it means to take it personally.
I can't believe how this guy didn't win the presidency. Anyway, take it personally. That's what he wants you to do. This is psychotic cult shit right here. Here we go.
And do everything we can collectively and individually to protect, preserve, and enhance the company.
You know what I wish? I wish the sign interpreter would just start signing, "Run away from this guy. He's freaking crazy." If I do sign language, that's what I'd do. I'd sign up to like be the interpreter for the worst people that I do it. And I'd be like, this guy's nuts. Anyway.
And I know that from a strategy standpoint and from an investment standpoint, we're going to do all the things the right way. But all of that doesn't matter if the execution doesn't measure up to the quality of the coffee.
Inspiring stuff. Weren't you? Who wasn't inspired by that? Who wasn't inspired by that cult speech he just gave? What a psycho. What an absolute psycho. Why is he doing this, by the way, you ask yourself? And you know what else that is, other than just disturbing and just psychotic capitalist death cult propaganda? Your workplace is your family. Think about your family. Don't ask for living wages. Don't ask for good health benefits. Think about your family. Don't you want me, a member of your family, to get another yacht? Think about your family. But you know what? Aside from this being psychotic, it's also kind of desperate, isn't it? It's kind of desperate. He's trying to appeal to your heartstrings at this point. And why is he doing that? Well, maybe, just maybe, because he's trying every illegal dirty trick in the book to try to stifle unions because they're winning, and he's scared. Because here's something else they're simultaneously doing. Here's something else Howard Schultz is doing to his family, by the way. This is from More Perfect Union as well. Starbucks CEO illegally threatens workers during earnings call. This is how Howard's treating his family, folks. Don't you treat your family that way? You do illegal things against them and threaten them. That's what most people do with their family, right? That's a healthy family. Starbucks CEO violated federal law when he promised to provide new benefits only to non-unionizing employees. He can't do that. That's something Howard Schultz also tried to do, and it's failing. So now he's trying to appeal to your heartstrings. Think about your family. You just tried to screw over all your workers. And think about your family. Schultz publicly promised to increase wages and training during company's quarterly earnings on Tuesday, but his pledge came with an exception. We do not have the same freedom to make these improvements at locations that have a union or where union organizing is underway. He can't do that. He can't do that. If they give benefits to unorganized workers and not to organizing ones, that's an unfair labor practice. It goes against, specifically, by dividing benefits the way Schultz proposed, Starbucks would violate Section 8A1 of the National Labor Relations Act. That's according to Kate Brofenbenner, I probably mispronounced that, who is the Director of Labor Education Research at Cornell University School of Industrial and Labor Relations. So he can't do that. He can't just be like, well, you don't, I'm going to offer this to non-union workers. So what this really proves, A, is that the union efforts are working. Starbucks is already trying to give. They're having to give. So the fact that they're offering better things, even though they're trying to say, well, it's only for non-unionized workers. No, that's bullshit. You can't do that. And that's proof that the union efforts are working. You're having to concede to workers a little bit. And B, he's desperate and he's scared it's going to start working more. So he's trying illegal tactics and he's trying to peel on your heartstrings. Think about your family. Think about your family and demand a living wage. Think about your family and demand health benefits. Think about your family and demand PTO. Think about your family and get the rights and respect you deserve as a freaking worker. That's thinking about your family. Starbucks is not your freaking family. Your employer is not your freaking family. I'm self-employed, and even my employer is not. Are you your own family? Actually, that's a weird philosophical question. Are you? One could argue you are. So I guess in my case, maybe my employer is my family. I mean, I'm self. Are you you're part of your family, sure, but are you your like in my family, as by employer. We're getting in the weeds now. This is getting some weird. We took a weird philosophical turn here, didn't we? I'll get back to that question. I don't have. I'm not. I can't answer that right now. I just don't. I mean, that's just too. Are you your own family? All right. Anyway, so there we go. All right. So that's what's going on with Howard Schultz over at Starbucks. It's working and they're scared. It's working and they're scared. They're scared of y'all because the union effort is working. And by the way, you're already seeing it's making things better for workers because they're scared. They have to give a little. They have to give a little already. And they're trying to be illegal about it so they can stop union efforts. And that's not working because they're breaking the law. You can't do what they're trying to do. And they know it's not going to work. So now they're appealing to your heartstrings. Think about your family. If you treated your workers like family, Howard, they wouldn't need to be. They wouldn't be in this situation. They wouldn't need to unionize. But guess what? People do need to unionize because the CEO is looking out for the bottom line, not the workers. It's always been that way. It will always be that way. And workers need a union for checks and balances to keep the bosses in check. And it's happening. And not only is it happening, but it's a new union movement. Unions have been defanged for over 60 years in this freaking country. So now we have a new union movement that's not only reinvigorating unions and getting more workers in unions, but it's redefining and taking back what it means to have a union. And that is scaring the Howard Schultzes of the world. That is scaring Howard Schultz. That is scaring Jeff Bezos. Christian Smalls is at Senate meetings now. He's there. Because they can't ignore it anymore. So this is winning, folks. And we got to keep going. We got to keep going. So I wanted to go here next. We're going to talk about what happened with Roe v. Wade. Of course, there was that draft opinion that got leaked where the Supreme Court is trying to overturn Roe v. Wade. And it likely will be overturned officially. That's likely what's going to happen. Which means that there's no longer a federal law for abortion. This is going to be used to ban it in many states. And it's not just abortion, by the way. There's going to be other things. They're going to really use this to go after women's health in general. I mean, they're going to use this to go after Planned Parenthood in particular, which Planned Parenthood, less than 3% of their activities are abortion services. Everything else is just general services. General health services, dominantly for women. They're going to take all that away. That's what they're going to do. They're going to really go after it. And of course, they're going to, ban abortions. And we've talked about on this show how to prepare for that moment more than anything else. I will say this out the gate before we get into some of that. It has been absolutely exhausting. And I have no other word for it. It has been absolutely exhausting to see so many people replay the record from 2016. Oh, Hillary, it should have been Hillary. If anyone who opposed Hillary Clinton or didn't vote for Hillary or dare said a bad thing about the Queen is the devil incarnate, and this is all their fault. This is Susan Sarandon was blamed more than anyone in government. Susan, an actress with an opinion. She was blamed more than anyone in government. And how tired is this? How tired? It makes zero sense. Okay, let's think about all the other things. Obama could have fought for the Supreme Court pick that was rightfully his. He didn't. Obama promised to codify Roe v. Wade, had full control, Senate and House first 2 years, didn't do it. RBG could have retired, didn't. Democrats could have codified it into law. They didn't. Democrats could have expanded the Supreme Court. They didn't. Trump said that Roe v. Wade wasn't going to be touched. He lied. He lied. Democrats could have done anything to fight Trump's Supreme Court pick. That final pick was pushed through in record time after they fast-tracked a bunch of his judges on the lower level. That last pick was pushed through in record time. Democrats could have done it. It was in September. The election was in November. There was a pandemic going on. It still went through in record time. Democrats did nothing. They could have threatened to shut down They could have used every tool at their disposal, every stall tactic, every stall bill. They did nothing. They could have brought up the impeachment thing. Remember that performance art? That impeachment thing? They impeached the guy multiple times. He's paid zero political consequences. He might get to he might run for president again. There's nothing stopping him from doing that. And he got a judge through in record time. They could have leaned on that and leaned on public opinion. They didn't even try it. They could have used the same logic McConnell used when they stopped Obama. Well, there's an election coming up. Let the public decide. They tried nothing. They did nothing. So many stall tactics at their disposal, and they only needed 2 months. And they tried nothing. And yet maybe they still would have failed. But at least I could say, and everyone could say, well, they tried something. They tried nothing. Nothing. And for everyone who says, well, technically, they couldn't have stopped it. They couldn't have done everything. I guarantee you, if it was the other way around, if Republicans had the House but didn't have the Senate and the White House, and an election was 2 months away, a presidential election 2 months away, I guarantee you, Republicans would have tried all of those tricks I mentioned, all of those tactics I mentioned, and Republicans would have beat the clock. You know it would have happened. And yet there is still excuse after excuse from 2004 to 2008 to current day. There's always a wheel. Well, Obama couldn't do it because he had the House and Senate. Well, and now there's the Manchin, Sinema, the parliamentarian. There's always just an excuse. Always. What good is having a majority if you do nothing when you have it? And there's always, to all the Democratic apologists out there, and holy shit, Twitter the past few days, you guys are still out there. Holy shit. How many times do you have to watch the basketball game before you think, you know what? I get the vibe the Washington Generals aren't trying to win. How many times? If you are still an apologist for the Democratic Party, you're in a cult. You're in a cult. And I don't know how to help you. I don't know how to freaking help you. You're in a cult, though. You're in a freaking cult. And by the way, the Republicans are literal fascists. They are fascists. Why are they able to be that way? Because the Democrats are just ineffective, elitist, blank suits. And those are your two choices. Here's these ineffective neoliberals who do nothing when they have power. Absolutely nothing. And it's by design. And here on the other side are literal neo-fascists. Take your pick. Take your pick. This is by design. Because guess what? Both teams have a sponsor. And that sponsor is Wall Street. Just like the Harlem Globetrotters and the Washington Generals have the same sponsor. That sponsor is just looking for an entertaining event. Oh my God. And yet there are still people. They're blaming people who voted for Jill Stein. They're blaming people who vote, which, by the way, even mathematically makes no sense. Most of the people who voted for Jill Stein, they wouldn't have voted otherwise. So instead of blaming the system that got us into this position and all the other things, people with actual power, you blame people in the Green Party and actresses. Like, what the hell? This country is so twisted beyond comprehension. Can you imagine if this happened in other countries where it's like, well, they're blaming the people for not voting and not hard enough for the party that's in power. Well, that party's in power and all this shit still happened. Yeah, I know. Well, how does that make sense? Yeah, I don't know. And they're blaming an actress. Well, what did the actress do? Was the actress in office? No. What does the actress have to do with anything? I don't know. They're blaming people who voted for one of the third-party candidates. Well, what about the Libertarian candidate? No, just the Green Party person. They're blaming that person? Yeah. Well, didn't the Democrat get the most votes anyway? Yeah, but they still didn't win the election? Yeah. How does any of this make sense? Like, our system's so fucking ridiculous. Like, it's just, how could you even give lip service? The people who go on these shows and who engage in this bullshit partisan punditry, it's like their job is to talk about the wrestling match, but pretend like it's actually real. They have to pretend like it's actually a real thing. And how are you not sick about pretending at this point? How are you not sick of it? Oh my God. So we're going to go over to, oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. So instead of focusing on all that, which I know I just went on a big tangent, it's like, wow, Rod, for somebody who didn't want to focus on that stuff, you went, but how do you not at this point? I mean, Jesus. What we're more focused on here is what you can do. Because yes, we are likely going to live in a post Roe v. Wade America. We're likely going to live in that America. And depending on the state you're in, you might be totally fine. I live in California. California, in at least in regards to this issue, there's plenty of other things, best stuff about California. Don't get me wrong, but speaking strictly on this issue, California is likely going to be fine. It's despite all of California's problems, that's one area where I'm thankful to live in California. And so that being said, if you are in that situation and you live in a state that is likely not going to be hurt by this, or hurt as bad at the very least, if you can help other people who aren't as fortunate, that'll go a long way. Maybe you don't have a lot, but maybe you have a couch and you have food in the fridge. That could save somebody. I'm not saying let strangers into your home or anything like that. I mean, that's kind of, you never, that could put you in danger. But maybe you have a friend who lives in Mississippi or something, or, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes just giving people a little bit of a break can go a long way. And maybe you have that friend who is really scared right now about resources that are going to be gone for them. And, whatever state they live in. And maybe you live in California and they really want to come out to California, but they don't have a lot of resources. I mean, it is so expensive right now. Just using myself as an example, I lived in my car for about a year and I saved every penny I possibly could from the road. I was still working. I was a full-time road comic. I was doing about 45 weeks a year of nonstop gigs. And I was living in my car, so my living expenses were pretty freaking low. And I saved every penny I could. Every penny I spent money on gas and food. That was about it. I slept in rest areas some nights. I crashed with friends many times. I crashed with other comics, promising to return the favor someday in LA. And some of them take me up on that. Some of them haven't, but And even then, I mean, I barely had enough to get started in LA. So I don't understand how people, unless they have a ton of money, I don't understand how you do it. So it's like, if you are able to say to someone, hey, I don't have a lot, but I got a couch and it's yours until you're on your feet. And then you give that person the chance to just physically get there. And then they get a job and they get on their feet and they save up a little bit and they're able. I mean, that is huge. So if you are in a position where you can do that for someone else, maybe just let them know that option is there. Maybe just say, hey, I don't have a lot. I don't have a lot of money and I'm living paycheck to paycheck like so many other people, but I do have a roof and I do have a couch and it is in California or wherever else. And we're not going to be hit by this the way you are where you live. So you're welcome to come here and you're welcome to stay as long as you need to. And you're welcome to get on your feet here and find a job. And I'll do the best I can to help you. That's a lot. That could save someone's life. I'm not embellishing. I'm not trying to be over dramatic. I'm being 100% serious. That could save someone's life. You might have a friend right now whose life you can save and you don't even realize it. That goes a long fucking way. Don't forget that. And here's another thing that I've brought up this book before. And this is something 7 Stories Press is doing, which is pretty awesome. 7 Stories Press is an independent publisher. They're not some big corporate publisher. They're an independent publisher, which I don't know how any independent publishers stay open these days. I really don't. They published this book by Robin Marty, stumbled over that one, called Handbook for a Post-Roe America. I read this book back in 2019. And the reason I read this book was because I was engaged and I was about to get married. And I realized, when you kind of think about getting married, you think about how, well, for the first time in my life, it's not just going to be me. I mean, I've been in relationships and stuff like that, but I've never really been like, oh wow, it's just me now, or it's not just me now. I have a household, and you can have a household without getting married. It is just a piece of paper, so I'm not trying to overstate marriage. And there's plenty of people who never get married, and their household is every bit as valid as someone who is. So don't get me wrong, but for me, I chose to get married. I wanted to. My wife wanted to as well. We wanted to get married. So for us, it's like, okay, we're gonna have a household now. It's not just me. It's not just her. It's us. And so I read that book, thinking about, gee, I might want a family someday, or I might not, and I'm gonna plan both ways, right? Either way, or both ways. And this is something that we could face. So I read this book. So you can go to 7stories.com and you can find this. They are making this book free to download. You can download this book for free. And by the way, it's been updated so that the resources are all up to date. There's a big resource section in the back. It's kept up to date. It mentions the second edition features extensively updated information on abortion legality and access in the United States, 100 pages of new content covering topics such as independent alternatives to Planned Parenthood, anti-networks, taxpayer-funded abortions, and using social media wisely in the age of surveillance. I've not read the other books on this topic. I've read this one, and it is excellent. And you can get it for free right now. Go to 7stories.com. If you can afford to pay for it, please do. Because 7 Stories, they're doing this. They're not getting anything in return for this. They are an independent press. They need to survive too. And I personally am going to buy something from them. I've already read this book a couple times. But I'm gonna buy. Maybe I'll buy a copy of this book and just send it to someone who needs it. But I'm gonna buy something from them to to help them out, because what they're doing here is really cool. So yeah. There you go. And some of you guys let me drop that link in the chat right now. I'll drop it in the YouTube chat and in the Rockfin chat. And I will also drop it in the I'll drop it in the podcast notes later. And I'll tweet it as well. So if you need this information, and if for some reason you can't find it, feel free to tweet me at Ron Placone. I'll make sure you get it. If you're listening to the podcast later and you're like, it's just on my phone, I don't have the podcast notes in front of me, I will get it to you. Yeah. So that's a really cool thing. And shout out to 7 Stories Press for doing that. So last thing I want to talk about on today's show is Nina Turner's loss. Now, so Nina Turner, for anyone not in the know, she ran for the second time in her district in Ohio, and she lost to the corporate-approved Democrat for the second time, Shontel Brown. She faced money from both the DNC and the GOP, not one or the other. She faced it from both of them. Here, let me pause the video till we're ready to start it. She faced tons of negative ads. She was outspent 50-1 in that regard, and she lost for a second time. And Nina Turner, of course, is one of the faces of the left movement or progressive movement, whatever you want to call it. She has, I believe, almost 500,000 Twitter followers. She is a force to be reckoned with. And yet she has lost twice in her district. Now, you guys know that electoralism is not my thing. You know that about me. I make no qualms about that. But I'm not here to bash Nina Turner or bash electoralism necessarily. I don't dislike Nina Turner. I wanted to see her win. In fact, I tweeted, I said, I want to see her win. But personally, I wish she was running for city council or mayor. And I also want nothing to do on a federal level, at the very least, with the Democratic Party. I want nothing to do with the Democratic Party. I have had peeks under the hood that are not very extensive. I mean, Nina Turner's had way more peeks under the hood than I have. But I've had some peeks under the hood in my life, more than I ever expected to have, more than I ever wanted to have, if I'm being honest with you. And I've seen the Democratic establishment for what it is. It is a disgusting, elitist, pompous, arrogant Completely useless institution. It's basically just a fundraising organization. That's all it is. I've met more politicians than I've ever wanted to. 99% of the time, it is a completely underwhelming experience. It's like meeting the sleaziest salesman you ever met. And you look at these people and you're like, I wouldn't want this person to take my garbage out, let alone vote for them for office. And it's part of the reason I see the world the way I do. It's part of the reason that I'm more an advocate for general strikes and protests and direct action. And if I am going to get involved with electoralism at all, I want it to be at the local level or at least the quasi-local level. That's why I feel the way I do. And here's the thing. A couple things I'll say about Nina Turner's race. I do believe that, again, she went up against all this corporate money and it stopped her twice. I do think that if Nina Turner was running for city council or mayor, instead of giving a second concession speech, she likely would have either already given or given in the near future. I don't know when Cleveland's local elections are. She'd likely be given a victory speech. I do believe that. I think Nina Turner could easily become mayor, could easily join city council. And we talk a lot about this show, on this show, about how important localism is. We talked about it earlier this week when I interviewed Shamika Parrish-Wright, who's running for mayor of Louisville, Kentucky. And I'm going to continue doing that, by the way. Whenever I have local candidates on, wherever they are, whether they're in Montana, Kentucky, Los Angeles, New York, doesn't matter. Whenever I have someone who is getting involved locally, electorally, it never does great numbers-wise. I know that. I don't care. I'm still doing it. Because even if they're not in your city, it still shows the importance of local engagement and what you can do locally. And that is so infinitely important, especially now. So I really wish that for people where electoralism is your bag, you would shine a brighter light on local. And I'll keep saying it. I'm not going to stop saying it. I really wish Nina Turner would consider city council or mayor. I really do. And I really don't understand. I mean, now there's grumbling she might run for president. And it's like, geez, I would love to see President Nina Turner. I'd freaking love that. But she couldn't overcome corporate efforts in her district. You think she'd be overcome it to get into the White House? I mean, now, here's the other thing I want to focus on. If electoralism is your bag, like electoralism is your thing, and that's fine if it is. That's fine if it is. But if electoralism is your bag, here's a question I have for you. And I'm not trying to be combative. I'm not trying to say that you're right or wrong. I think it takes all of us. You need inside people and outside people. I'm an outside person, and I have no desire to be an inside person. And by inside, I mean electoralism. All right? So if you're an electoralism person, and I have plenty of friends who are, I applaud what they do. They are necessary, but so are outside people. You need both. You need both. But my question to you, inside people, and again, we're all on the same team at the end of the day, but my question to you, what all are you doing in regards to changing the rules? Because if electoralism is your bag, that's fine. But if all you're doing is just jumping from campaign to campaign, being like, I like what this person stands for, I'm going to try to help them win. We have no real plan to victory. They've raised about $25. And look, again, I hate the way our system operates as far as money. But yes, you need a little bit of it to run a campaign. You need to raise some money. I see these people, they're like, I'm going to run for office. I'm going to beat this incumbent. They have 11 Twitter followers and $10. I'm sorry, you're not going to go anywhere. It sucks that that's reality, but it is. So my thing is, what are you doing? Instead of just jumping from campaign to campaign and tweeting strongly, what are you doing as far as changing the frickin' rules? And what I mean by that, you look at something like ranked choice voting. All right, up in Maine, they have ranked choice voting. Lisa Savage, she ran for, I believe, was it Senate or she ran for office? Let me see. I forget if it was a Senate race or if it was, and I don't want to. Yeah, so she ran for Senate. Now, here's the thing: In her race, she ran as an independent. She was included in all of the debates. She was included, and they were debating issues that they probably wouldn't have been debating otherwise because Lisa brought those issues to the table. And instead of all these negative attack ads, Nina Turner had about I believe according to her like 50-1 or something like that negative ads. Well, all of a sudden, it's not as much about negative ads anymore because you're not just being like, vote for me because I'm not my opponent. You're saying, vote for me because this is what I offer, and I want your first ranking. You know, when you have something like ranked choice voting, it can't just be my opponent sucks, my opponent sucks, my opponent sucks, my opponent sucks, because people are ranking their choices. You want them to rank, okay, so I get it, your opponent sucks, but what are you going to do for me? Because otherwise, you just have to keep saying how all these opponents sucks. You have to say what you're going to do. And in ranked choice voting, it makes it easier. You know, Nina Turner has expressed that she doesn't want to deal with the Democratic Party. With something like ranked choice voting, it'd be way easier for someone like Nina Turner to run as an independent, to run as a green. It makes it that much easier because people have to listen to ideas now. Now, would ranked choice voting solve all of our problems? No, not necessarily. Because you still have money in politics. You still have a whole other problems. But again, it's one of the things that needs to change. It's one of the rules that needs to change. And I would be willing to say that if Nina Turner had ranked choice voting, I can't guarantee that she would have won, but I think she would have had a much better chance. I think she would have had a much better chance. And by the way, she might be more likely to run as an independent in the general or something like that if there was ranked choice voting. So if electoralism is your thing, what are you doing to fight for ranked choice voting? Now, by the way, I brought up Lisa Savage. Lisa did not win. So, you know, having ranked choice voting doesn't guarantee a victory for better candidates. Of course not. And there's plenty of reasons why Lisa probably lost. And I'm sure she was outspent by a lot. Again, money in politics, still an issue. But what are you doing for something like ranked choice voting? What are you doing to get money out of politics? That all falls under electoralism. That's all part of it. So, you know, I'm not here to wag my finger at people who have different strategic ideas than I do. I'm really not. But I am going to say, like, if electoralism is your bag, rule changing has to be part of that too. Now, I want to watch this video. This is from Status Quo, Jordan Cheriton and everyone. They did a great job covering the things on the ground in Cleveland. Here's what Nina Turner had to say. Some of the things Nina Turner had to say after her loss.
Let's talk about the gloves all the way off. You mentioned Pinos, P-I-N-O, progressives and names only. Let's keep it real. The squad did not come in here for you. AOC came in 5 minutes before. You know, they had their reasons. We can't endorse an incumbent. Who are the Pinos? And did the squad and the broader progressive movement let you down?
I don't want to get into the squad. Okay, some of those women are my friends. Some people were threatened. Were threatened.
By who?
And you know, I don't want to get into the threats, but they were threatened. So you know, look, I want to lead them to the side. I will say that the Congressional Progressive Caucus was wrong. They were wrong. And I was really glad to see Congresswoman Jayapal in the Punch Bowl article kind of allude to they need to change the way that they do this. That came from the pressure of the movement itself. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been noticed. I mean, she did mention, you know, the crypto billionaire coming in and that kind of thing, and maybe that's not the way we should endorse. The Progressive Caucus has got to show that they're different than the Blue Dog Caucus, because if they're not, then they might as well just go ahead and unite with them.
They've pretty much already united with them. Look, I don't know much about Nina Turner's personal life. Well, I know nothing about her personal life, and it's not my business and not my concern. I don't know who her friends are or aren't. I don't know if squad members are really her friends or not. I have no idea. I don't know any squad members personally. But I will say this as sort of a rule of thumb on how I live my life. And something based on what she said in that segment, I think maybe she might want to consider. I live in Los Angeles. I dwell in show business. And again, I've had peeks under the hood of the political world that I never wanted and never expected to have. And it's shaped my worldview a lot. Show business is one of the most shady industries out there. And show business, even on its worst day, has more integrity and seems like a charity in comparison to the political world. My exposure to the political world, it is the shadiest of the shadiest of the shadiest shit I have ever seen in my freaking life. It is absolutely disgusting. It makes show business look like the freaking. It makes show business look like a freaking ethics course in comparison. But those are the worlds in which I dwell. And dwelling in those worlds, here's something that I've been doing since I've lived in Los Angeles. The amount of friends I think I have, I think about who do I think are my friends in this world? Not in general, but just in this world. And I take that number and I divide it by 3. And I say, okay, that number's still too high, but it's a little close. So if I think I have 33 friends, I probably have 5. Because like divided by 3, okay, that's 11. It's probably still too high. Now you might think, Ron, that sounds like a lonely way to live a life. It really isn't. Because here's the thing. No matter what happens to me, I know who my freaking friends are. I know who they are. And I've always known who they are. They're the people who have picked me up when I was at my worst. They're the people who were standing beside me on my wedding day. I know who my freaking friends are. And I'm very cautious with who I let in. And I feel like to live in a place like LA and to dwell in a world like show business or the political world, or really just any world, really. I mean, the corporate world's no better, I'm sure. I mean, I don't know, but I'm sure it's not. I think that's the way you ought to live. I didn't move to Los Angeles to go, I'm going to make a ton of friends. Nobody goes into politics. I'm going to make a ton of friends. And if you are, boy, are you delusional. So I might encourage Nina Turner, and I'm sure she doesn't watch this show. I mean, maybe she does, but I would encourage her to maybe consider that when you're going to talk about your friends in the squad. And maybe they are. I mean, I don't know. It's not my business. I'm just saying when I hear stuff like that from people in the political world, when I hear stuff like my good friend Joe from Bernie Sanders, I can't help but think, guys, you got to be careful with who you give that olive branch to. You really do. So, again, I'm not saying I'm any. That's just how I live my life. And I see some people in the political world, and I'm thinking, you guys might want to consider that. And I think Nina Turner might want to consider, well, who are your. First of all, what were these threats? I mean, we're all still wondering that. What were these so-called threats? I mean, first of all, if they were physical threats, someone has to blow the whistle on that. That's messed up. That is beyond messed up. If members of the squad were threatened, like legitimately threatened, if they endorsed Nina Turner, that someone needs to blow the whistle on that. I'm sorry, like that's messed up. But threatened how? Where they say, "Oh, you might not get these committee assignments." Like what were these threats? Threatened how? I mean, with all due respect to Miss Turner, you can't make a statement like that and then just sort of. And Jordan pressed on her. I mean, I'm not, like Jordan pressed on her, and she wouldn't go there. But it's like, well, if you're not willing to go there, you probably shouldn't have said that, because now a bunch of people are wondering, what are these threats? So, all right. So I guess that's really where I stand there. I think we should really take it into account what it means when someone like Nina Turner, a face of a movement, can't win in a district. And I'm not trying, I'm not trying to bash her. I'm not trying to, I'm just saying this is telling us something. It's telling you that the DNC, it's a club. It's not. Bernie Sanders was selling out frickin' stadiums. They kneecapped him twice. He was filling up. Well, I guess technically it was free most of the time, so he wasn't selling it out. But you know what I mean. Filling up stadiums. They kneecapped him twice. It's not a political party. It's a club. It is a private club. They even said so in frickin' court. And the private club is ineffective. So then your other option are literal neo-fascists. There is nothing. I do not think there is anything in any other pseudo-democratic experiment in the world that is as vicious or dangerous as the Republican Party. The only way they're allowed to be that way is because of how ineffective the Democrats are. The Republicans make the Tories look like a fucking charity. Hell, the Democrats are to the right of the Tories, for crying out loud. It's nuts. We need true systemic change. And you're not going to accomplish that by just going along with the system. Oh, no, we could just keep losing. We lost for 100 years. Let's lose for another freaking 100. We don't have another 100 years to lose, folks. We really don't. So think local. And if electoralism is your bag, think local and think about the rules that need to change and realize that's part of electoralism. You want electoralism to be your thing? That's great. We need you. The rules got to change. And the organization that is doing the most effort on ranked choice voting, to my knowledge, is the freaking Green Party. So it's so interesting to be like a lot of people, electoralism is their thing, and they demonize things like the Green Party. Meanwhile, the Green Party are the only people that they're doing the systemic changes necessary so that there's even a chance at things getting better electorally. It's something. It's something to see. It really is. So, all right. Let's see here. Let me go to the chat, see what you guys are doing. Venetia, what's up? What's up, Venetia? How are things over in the UK? I hope they're great, and I hope to see you in 2023 because I really want to tour over there. Hey, Ron, so glad you are back. Thank you for that, Venetia. It is great to be back. Great interview with Shamika on Tuesday. Thank you for that. I really enjoyed talking to her. Shamika Parrish-Wright, running for mayor, not city council, mayor in Louisville, Kentucky. Check that out. If you're in Louisville, check it out. She seems like an awesome candidate. I really love talking to her and get involved. So thank you for that, Phoenicia. And over on the Rockfin, Jesus, what's up? Good to see you. Have not seen you in a while. Let's see. Ron, workers should focus on ownership of company stock, not just wages and healthcare. That way, future bailouts will go to working people. I like that. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. Absolutely. All right. Yeah. Well, I know that there's those employee, I forget the exact word for it, but Fender did it recently, where Fender, the guitar company, where employees basically have part of the company and they have more or less a worker co-op. It's kind of a worker co-op-esque situation. And yeah, those are huge. I mean, I think worker co-ops are infinitely important and we got to get there. I think unions are infinitely important too, because again, the situation is dire. People are working and they can't afford to live. So I support efforts to unionize. I support worker co-ops. I support all of the above. Anything that gives power to the workers, I'm for it. So there you go. And Jesus, you're absolutely right. I agree with you. So thank you, Venetia. Thank you, Jesus. You help keep this show on the air. My new podcast series attached to Get Your News On with Ron is going to start soon. It's called Expatriate. And I'm going to talk about all the things I learned about getting a second passport. I did a lot of online sleuthing over the past 2 years, and I'm going to share what I learned. Everything from permanent residencies to different visas that are out there to citizenship by descent to the rules in countries like Canada, Mexico, the EU. And so if you are wanting to leave the United States, or if you want to just be armed with the information, a lot of people have asked me this in the past couple days since I announced this. Ron, where are you moving to? Nowhere. I like San Pedro where I live. I don't want to leave. Why did I do all this? Because if it ever comes down to that, I want to be ready. If it ever comes down to I need to leave the country for whatever the reason may be. And we're going to talk about all that more on the podcast. But whatever the reason may be, I want to be ready. So if you want to just have this information at your disposal so that you can better prepare, should it ever come down to that, or if your mind's already made up, and that's fine too, that's totally fine. No judgment either way. This is going to be a podcast about all that. It's going to be under the Get Your News On with Ron umbrella, so you can still get it wherever you get this show, but it's just going to be a different segment. So I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be launching soon. And if you want to support this show on the sustainability end, again, best way that you can do it, patreon.com/Ron Placone. For a give what you can level, you get all kinds of exclusive content. You get patron streams. I do Zoom shows just for patrons, and I'll make you a theme song. And that's all for a give what you can level. And I drop all my stuff there. So if you're thinking, man, Ron, YouTube never notifies me. I never find out when you drop another beach walk. This is annoying. You become a patron. Everything gets dropped there. Everything gets dropped there. Patreon.com/Ron Placone. Even $1 a month goes a long way. Folks, thanks for being here. This has been the headline show for the week. We'll be back next week. Expatriate launching soon. And by the way, I'll be announcing that official launch to the patrons first. So another reason, patreon.com/Ron Placone. All it takes is $1 a month. It's a give what you can level. So whatever level you're comfortable, that's all it costs. Even $1 a month, that's all. Patreon.com/Ron Placone. Thank you so much for being here. Oh, and tour dates, I got them. Iceland, I'm going to be at your Fringe Festival. I'm going to be at the Reykjavik Fringe Festival from June 24th through July 3rd. I should be getting my final show times and dates soon, but I'll be doing 2 shows at that festival, and I'll be at the festival. So make your plans now. Once my official show dates and times have been announced, you'll be able to get tickets directly from the Fringe Festival itself. Also, Graham Elwood and I have some tour dates coming up. July 28th, Portland, Oregon. July 29th, Seattle. July 30th, Vancouver, British Columbia. Get tickets at ronplacone.com. That's myself and Graham Elwood. All right. I will see you all next week. And in the meantime, you know the drill. Lucy, she says meow. I say peace, love, and a general strike.